Here is a procedure to put a brace whilst installing the plug. I know I'm taking you a bit quickly, but could we go to page 3? Under the rubric installing the pipe plug. It's page 9835. The first one says to make sure it's the correct size plug for the line. What line you did in 2022 was a 30-inch line. The line with this.
They're about 30-inch.
And this plug was so which line?
30-inch.
So it's only a 30.
Range from, I think it was 24 to 30. I'm not sure right now, but there was more than one size.
Right. And ensure the pipe is rated to handle the back test pressure for the application. Did you do that examination before you insert the plug and pressure it up, that you ascertain that the pipe was fit to take the pressure?
Yep.
You did that?
Yep.
What was the pressure to install that pipe, that plug?
I don't think that's what they're saying there, you know.
What are they saying?
Actually.
That's the plug itself?
Yeah.
Right, and ensure that the pipe is clean and free of debris or damage, which can damage the pipe plug, cause the pipe plug to fail or dislodge from the pipe.
Right, we did that.
Did you all clean inside the
We did.
Just before the 30, just above the 30 foot liquid?
No, when we pumped out the line was clean. When we pumped down the line was clean.
When you pumped down the oil, the line was clean?
The line was clean.
Could you explain to us how that can be?
Well, the liquid went down, there was no solids, no rust or anything on the line. I think that's what they meant.
You think that's what they meant?
Yeah.
But again, that's what you think?
Yep.
To go over to the next page, towards the bottom, what page is that number? The next, 9835, under the rubric blocking, bracing, restraining the pipe plug. And do you understand the purpose for blocking, bracing, restraining the pipe plug?
That's why we ensured it went down on a leg of liquid.
No, that's not. Yeah, that's probably the way you did it. But you understand the reason for it?
Yeah, to stop the plug moving, to restrict the movement of the plug. Once you put it on a solid thing or the leg of liquid, it wasn't supposed to move.
So you use the liquid to support the plug?
Come back.
You use the liquid to support the plug?
Exactly.
So if the liquid evaporates or disappears, the plug goes?
Well, it should not have inside the pipeline evaporate or go.
Beg your pardon?
It should not have.
Yes. But that is...
But now, in hindsight, we know something happened. Right, but at the time...
I like it, right. We all know at the time.
And the science of it is the liquid there would restrict the movement of the plug.
But they're not telling you here to use the liquid to rest the plug on.
They said to restrain the plug.
Right.
They didn't say how to restrain it. If there was no liquid, you would block it.
Right.
Right? Like to the top of the plug, there was no liquid, and we used the mechanical plug as a restraint.
Oh.
So you had the plug wasn't supposed to go down because you had a solid leg of liquid below.
Right.
And the mechanical plug would stop it coming up.
Right.
While it's
so once you remove the mechanical plug,
right.
The top support is removed.
Right. So at that stage, we were removing the plug. Yeah. While you're in operation, while you're doing the welding and you're doing that sort of stuff, you restrain it, you make sure.
Right. We could move faster if you just accept. The plug had 2 hooks on top to attach cables.
Yeah.
What's the purpose of those hooks?
Those are also a restraint.
to restrain it within the hyperbaric chamber,
Yeah,
so it would not fall into the pipe.
yeah.
That
Well,
was
that-
done?
Sorry?
Was that done?
That was done, yeah.
When was that done?
When they removed the mechanical plug, they attached,
They're supposed to attach.
no, they did.
Right. So the plug should be in the hyperbaric chamber, but it wasn't.
No, I'm not saying that. I said they attached it.
Right,
If you look at the plug, the pictures I got now, you'll see where the lug was broken off.
right.
So when it moved, it broke off the
So some of the key considerations when blocking, bracing, or restraining pipe plugs are as follows. Do not point load the pipe plug when blocking and bracing. What does that mean?
that you shouldn't have anything sticking up that the plug could puncture itself. So that's why the liquid was a better option.
Instead, use multiple points of contact on the plug in order to spread the back pressure.
Correct. So
test
that's why the
pressure
liquid was a
forces.
better option.
I didn't finish it. Over the largest possible area of the plug.
All right.
Right.
So you don't have point load and that would stick into that puncture there.
Right. But I get back to you. Once that liquid goes, the support that you're depending on
At
goes.
the time, we didn't expect it to go.
I accept that. But it happened that it went.
Can I ask a question in relation to that, please, Mr. Alleyne? This plug that you're being asked about, there was no attempt by you, as I understand it, to check the integrity of that plug in the 12-day gap between it being installed.
Unfortunately, we couldn't get at it. The only way to get at it was to remove it.
Well,
It was inside the pipe, 30 feet down, and we had the mechanical one. So we could remove the mechanical plug, but we
Yes.
couldn't access, we had to go inside the pipeline.
well, forgive me, that's what I want to ask you. You would have had to have removed the mechanical plug, first of all, all right?
Correct, yeah.
Now, assuming you'd removed the mechanical plug and left the inflatable plug,
Yeah.
one way in which to check the integrity of that was to ensure that the pressure that had been pumped into the PSI into that plug was the same as when you left it.
It would have been, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what it was, but whatever the pressure was necessary to inflate it so that it created the seal which you're talking about.
But remember, it was in operation test mode for 4 hours, and it didn't move for that
Right.
stage. So that was a way of testing it as well.
Well, but
We didn't,
you said earlier, you see, that normally you would want this work to be done within 4 days of installing the plugs.
Yeah.
We know that it was 3 times that much.
yeah.
Did that not cause you some anxiety to check the integrity of that plug?
But that's what I'm saying, sir. We put the chamber into operation, and it had the air pressure in it, and it held. So that was one way of testing it.
Well, by the time you did that, you had the mechanical plug in place, didn't you?
Yeah, but the mechanical probe wasn't sealed off.
Was what, sorry?
It tightened against the wall of the pipe,
Yes. Well, they
but
both.
there wasn't a pressure seal. We had holes in the plug, the same bolts, to leave the pressure to pass in and out of that.
Well, I've not understood this then.
It's not
Are you
airtight then.
Am I to understand it that you're saying that the mechanical plug that is put over the top of the inflatable
Yeah,
plug
it wasn't airtight.
was not airtight?
No, it was tight against the side of the pipe that would
Right.
stop it moving up and down in the pipe.
Right.
Right? But it didn't stop the pressure from passing through in and out the pipe.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so
just
it was meant.
Just a minute, Mr. Addy. I need to write that down. Thank you. So I can take it, can I, that the
Could I-
mechanical plug didn't create a seal.
No, it more was like a physical barrier
Right.
to stop the plug coming out and to stop things falling onto the plug.
I got you, right. So what Mr. Peterson was asking you about this inflatable plug, once you put the hyperbaric chamber over the top, that would have had that downward pressure.
It would have, yeah.
And do you know if it moved, if the inflatable plug moved when you did that?
Well, it was still there when they opened the seal, but we wouldn't know. All we would know is that the chamber was operating.
Right.
Right? It was voiding the liquid in the chamber, and we were getting some ullage in the pipe, about 4 feet under the where we did the flange.
Right.
So it was never meant to be a seal.
The mechanical plug was never a seal.
No,
Right.
it
Well, I
was
had
meant-
completely misunderstood that up until you just told me.
Yeah, I think it stated there that it was to stop
Well,
there.
Then it's passed me by, and
Yeah.
I'm grateful to know that that's what you're saying. All right, thank you very much. Sorry, Mr.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. One more question on the plug before we move. Could we just scroll back up to the rubric ahead of, stop, come back down, please? Monitoring the pig plug, right? Pipe plug. The pig is here. Monitoring the pipe plug. Once the insulation, you see that?
Yeah.
Once insulation and inflation of the plug is complete, and you are working the application, the plug should be monitored regularly. The
Right.
required inflation pressure should be checked every 4 hours at a minimum, but more often in critical situations. But that plug was installed 12 days before.
It was.
What do you say about this?
So it was monitored. Before you went into the chamber, we would leave it running to make sure the plug was still holding.
Not the hyperbaric chamber I'm talking about. I'm talking about
I know, but I'm
plug.
saying the way we knew the plug was still holding was because we could we could empty the hyperbaric chamber.
Right.
Right? So the pressure from the chamber was going acting on the plug.
But you don't know, it's holding, but you don't know if it's leaking.
It-
Because it's there for 12 days, and they're suggesting every 4
Well,
hours.
I'm not sure what you're saying.
I will say it slowly.
What are you talking? No, you don't have to say it slow. What are you talking about leaking?
The inflatable plug was installed 12 days before the 25th.
Right.
The manufacturer's specifications suggest, which you told me that you hadn't read, but you have to accept it's in the bundle, indicated that you should check the pressure in the plug every 4 hours at a minimum and more often depending on the situation. That wasn't done.
The only way it could have been done, but making sure the chamber was functioning. If the chamber wasn't functioning, it meant you were losing the pressure down there.
The chamber, you said the chamber was able to push down the water, and you interpreting that to mean that the plug,
That the plug was holding.
yes, but holding how?
Holding sufficient enough. Right?
But not sufficient enough to stop a latent delta
As
pressure.
we said before, the delta P, we could consider in hindsight. At the time we installed the plug, there was a leg of liquid underneath that would have eliminated delta P.
Okay.
There were other considerations that could have caused delta P that we haven't uncovered.
Another conclusion or explanation, if the plug, well, we all know into the realm of speculation, if the plug was at its best, the delta P force may not have been able to pull it in.
If it was at its best.
At its best, like completely pressured up, properly installed, properly braced.
So are we speculating that during the 12 days the pressure was lost in the plug?
That's the problem we have. That's what the chairman is trying to for us to understand. That's what we're investigating here.
But the plug didn't move until we went and it deflated it. So it was okay.
It's like a car tire. Let's Let me
Yeah, but what
speak
I'm
to some of
saying,
this.
we had to deflate it in any case.
It's like a car tire, Mr. Ali. Sometimes you tire kind of soft, you say, gas station, I ain't stopping there, but I will make it home.
Right.
Right? Or you have it, you stop and they pressure it up efficiently.
So,
That's what I'm,
and I am
that's
telling
the
you,
parallel I'm drawing.
and I'm telling you, it's only when we deflated it that the plug moved. So prior to us deflating it, the plug was good at its best.
Prior to you deflating it, it had not moved.
It had not moved.
But you don't know if it was at its best.
In any case, we had to reduce the pressure. So whether it had reduced and stayed there, we still had to come and reduce it even more.
Right. Well, we have the manufacturer's specifications in the bundle. I now want to take you quickly to the method statement, the final one that was used, which is number 116.
Yeah.
Your guys did not hold religiously to the steps in that method statement.
Your guy is making up a story.
No, I asked you.
There was one method statement, and we used that method.
Can we have the method statement up so that we can see what you're saying? Thank you. Can we put, what page is it at, please? Is it in core bundle 2? Or 3? Maybe it's in 3. 3, yeah. At, 10 where? 1048. Yes, thank you. Can you identify what you're speaking of, please, Mr.
Method statement 116.
Yes.
Is this the only method statement you submitted?
We submitted a method statement at the time we tendered the job.
Yes.
We submitted a method statement for removing the oil in the pipeline. We submitted a method statement for installing the plug and installing the chain.
Right.
Right.
Those earlier ones are number 108, and I can't remember the other number.
Right.
But the one I'm referring to is this one, that the last one on the job.
Could you scroll down? Because I'm not sure if it's the final version.
Is that?
Hold it. Scroll on a bit more, please. Yes, that looks like the one we are.
Where do you want him to look, Mr. Peterson?
Now, if we go to, the job was stopped on the 13th, wasn't it?
On the 15th.
On the 15th, sorry, 15th of February. After completing number 53.
Can we turn to 53 then, please? Right.
All right?
Yep.
Let me ask, is this method statement supposed to follow in order 48, followed by 49, followed by 50? Or can you jump around depending on the execution?
It's supposed to follow unless we have an agreed change between us and Paria.
All right. Are you aware that when they stopped on the 15th, they stopped after completing step 53, and they resumed with step 58? and then they had 61 to 73. Then they reverted up to 54. They were moving around. Are you aware of that?
Could you come back to now?
Oh, I didn't.
Who's controlled it? I can't see your flip.
Right. Well, can we take it one bit at a time, please, Mr. Peterson, so that he has a fair opportunity to answer your questions? So you're saying that on the 15th, the work was called to a halt. That was at the conclusion of number 53 that we've already read. That's performing a dye penetration test to ensure the integrity of the weld, I imagine, right?
Yes.
And then options if it passes or not, right? So that's when work was called to halt.
So
that's what Mr. Peterson has put to you, right?
Yeah, but he's flicking the screen so I can't see it.
Right. So the next step, he says, is number 58. So can we turn to 58, please?
50. Did I say 58? No, 61, sir. We started at 61. Sorry.
So you say it restarted at 61, right? So what is being suggested to you is that steps 54, which was on completion of the weld, conduct a pressure test on the flange weld. 55, which is on acceptance, remove the test hardware.
Could I have a couple minutes?
You need to speak into the microphone.
Explain. All right. So on the 15th, we finished late and we couldn't do the test. It was that late. So he said we resume, because we didn't have the technicians for testing the well on the 16th, we said the test continue on the 17th.
Right.
Right. But there were a couple of steps that could have been interchanged.
Yeah.
So
Pause there for a minute. Did you complete the weld test on the 17th?
No, we didn't.
No, right.
Right. So we went out on the 16th and we changed around the step in order to progress the work. So we went on to...
So had works been stopped on the 15th?
Right, so we stopped at 54. We didn't do the weld.
Right.
And if somebody could please scroll up again. Could I? Who's control? Yeah? Yeah. Could you go down to where we open the chamber?
You've got the document in front of
Okay,
you. If it's easier for you to scroll through it.
I'll go without the screen. I'll just explain it as we.
All right.
Right, it might be easier. All right. So we couldn't do the pressure test on the weld.
Right.
We decided we'll come back on the 17th. We didn't come back on the 17th for whatever reason, so we came back on the 25th. All right? While we were waiting for the pressure...
Is Mr. Peterson right when he says to you the work on your schedule, scroll back please to 51, that it stopped at 51, 52, 53? That's where it stopped.
It stopped at 53.
Right. And is he right when he says it resumed at a different place to 54? Have a look at 54.
Yeah, it resumed at a different place.
Right. Where do you say it resumed?
It resumed at where we...
Scroll forward, please, so that we're on to the next page. Right, have a look at that page. Just pause there. Where in that list between 56 and 65 do you say it resumed? Have a look.
I have to do it here. That is not moving.
Have a look at 56, paragraphs 56 to 65, and
Okay,
you tell us.
so we go up to 61.
Right, 61, unbolt 50-inch flange at the top of the chamber stovepipe.
Right?
Are you saying that's where you resumed?
Yeah.
Right, I think that's what Mr. Peterson put to you.
That's what I wanted to know, that notwithstanding what is chronicled in your method statement,
Yeah.
you move around depending on the execution of the job.
In conjunction with Paria.
Yeah,
Good.
that's fine, but it's not what I'm trying to get
Yeah.
before the commission is that this is not set in concrete. The
It
order.
can be changed with mutual agreement, yeah.
And the reason it can be changed is that the top of your statement, if you could go to the top of the same method statement, it introduces itself with these opening words. All steps below shall only be carried out in full compliance with Paria's PTW system.
Correct.
So, notwithstanding what is contained in the method statement, what really governs is the PTW to execute.
With this in conjunction.
Yes, because those steps have to be completed, but not in that order. Isn't that so?
Right.
Right,
And
that
I'm
must be
saying,
And your company is of the view that Paria's PTW system is paramount. No pun intended. Because you're familiar with an email sent from your address, but in fairness to you, it was authored by Mr. Ahmad Ali concerning an incident when there was an unauthorized movement of a badge.
yeah,
Is this the email that you sent us earlier this morning?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Is there any reason why you can't see it?
Yeah, no, sir, no.
Can we have it up on the screen then, please? Is there a particular passage you want to refer
Yes,
to?
the whole email is good for the Commission for reading later on with respect to context, but because we are against time, this was an incident with the unauthorized moving of a badge contrary to a PTW.
yeah.
It was investigated by you, and you took certain steps. And you recognize in answering one of Paria's questions, one of Paria's questions, question 3, when Mr. Archibald was asking whether he would introduce self-check or a checklist system to be implemented. So that is to guard against that kind of infraction. You see question 3? It's supposed to be on the front page. Question 3. You see Q3 and you see A3. A is the answer, Q3 is the question. But I could help you quickly. What your Mr. Ali was confirming to Paria is that a checklist can be created, because Paria was suggesting a checklist as a method of guarding against infractions, whether that system is going to be implemented. And your Mr. Ali said, not you, your Mr. Ali, Paria's LMCS Mr. Ali, said a checklist can be created, but we feel that the permit itself already serves as the most powerful control document in the existing system, and another form recapping the same requirements as already documented, there is of little value.
Yep. And
You accept, you agree with Mr. Ali, I think he's one of your senior persons. You agree with him? That the
I agree with him.
Yeah, I agree with him.
Could I
Your lawyer, of course, will ask anything to clerk. I see against time. Not that I don't want to.
okay.
Against some time. I'm going that last. The rescue, I just want to get there. I know that the rescue, you said in answer to the chairman this morning, I think at about 3:50. When did you first know the men went missing? Around 2:50 p.m. on the 25th.
around 3 o'clock?
Around 3 o'clock.
Yeah.
But by 3:15, you formed the view that they were in the pipe.
Correct.
Because all equipment going and all of that.
Yeah.
And you mustered up a quick rescue plan.
Correct.
Having mustered up that plan, what did you do with it?
I left it for the divers to activate, to execute the plan.
Anybody in particular?
Andrew Farah, Dexter Guerra, and a bunch of men on the barge.
I didn't hear that. Mr.
Andrew Farah and Dexter
Farah
Guerra.
and Dexter
Guerra.
Guerra. They're both qualified divers on your
Sorry?
team? They're both qualified divers?
One is commercial, one is paddy.
Right. One's paddy and one's commercial.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And you left the barge area.
I left, I went back ashore.
You said you got a call from Mr. Piper inviting you to come to the building, the shipping building.
I had a few calls from Mr. Piper.
You had a few calls from Mr. Piper.
Right.
Did
I
you
had
tell
a call
him?
from Mr. Piper while I was on the barge
Yes.
at 3:23,
All right.
where I told him what the status was on the barge.
Which is that the thing, the men are in the pipe.
Yep.
Right. When next you spoke to him?
Probably about half an hour afterwards.
Right. When did you tell him about the details of your plan, the rescue plan?
I told him we were going to dive and get the men out. Whether I gave him the details, I'm not sure, but I told him that we were going to get the men, rescue the men. Sorry. Yeah, I said we were going to dive and get the men out of the pipe.
Right. Do you recall around when you told him that?
That would be about 3:23.
Right. And did you execute the plan?
So we go in circles. I left the barge just after.
Also, you left it, okay. So you told Mr. Piper that you left a plan, you plan to dive.
Yeah, and the men were going to do it.
Right. But you didn't tell him the details of that rescue plan.
I said we were going to go into the pipe and get the men. The men were in the pipe. I told them the men were in the pipe. So the plan was to go in and get them out of it.
Right. You said in your witness statement that you told Miss Catherine Balkisoon. Our instructions are that you never told her about your plan.
I never told her about the plan. She was told about the plan about 4 times by me, by Dexter Guerra. At that stage, I detailed the plan.
At which stage?
When I spoke to Catherine, that would have been about after 6, somewhere around there.
Right.
Right? That's the first time I spoke to her, around 6 or after 6.
Right. So that I understand this, please. Mr. Alley, you told Mr. Piper before
Catherine.
before Catherine.
Yeah.
Right.
I can't remember
and-
exactly what details I gave to Mr. Piper. I just told him that.
Pause for a minute. I've got that bit. But you told Mr. Piper before Christopher Boudran
Yeah.
came out of the pipe,
Yeah, long before.
and you told Catherine after
Correct.
Mr. Boudran came out of the pipe.
Correct, yeah.
Have I got that right?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. Sorry.
You say you cannot recall the details you told Mr. Piper. I would suggest to you told him none. In your witness statement, you said you didn't tell him any details he didn't ask you. You recall saying that in the statement?
Show him the paragraph, please.
Paragraph 104, I will take you to immediately, but that's not the one I was first looking for. This is, which one? Supplemental. Paragraph 104 of your supplemental statement. You said, I did not speak to them about the rescue plan on Friday, and they did not ask for any details.
Right.
That
That didn't.
You were referring to Mr. Mustak and Mr. Piper.
Yeah. When I spoke to Piper, I said we were going to rescue them. I didn't give him a plan. I didn't explain to him how we were going to do it. At that time, most important in my mind was to get the men ready and go down in there. I was talking to Mr. Piper on the phone while I was talking to the men. I'm not sure exactly, but I know I told him we were going to get the men. Right? So the details of a plan I didn't give him, but I told him we were going to get the men.
When did you first give him the details of a plan, if any? Wasn't it Sunday?
Oh, Mr. Piper, from Saturday morning. Saturday, when I went to Paria, I was locked out at the gate. Mr. Piper eventually let me come in about 9 o'clock.
When you
And-
say, no, just now, wait, I can't let that
Saturday
pass.
morning.
When you say Mr. Piper eventually, that could create the impression that Mr. Piper was the person who locked you out.
Paria locked me out.
Right. So you
Right.
arrive at the gate and you weren't given admission.
I wouldn't give him admission.
Right. But don't say Mr. Piper, he let you in.
Mr. Piper spoke to them, and I was allowed to come in.
Right. You call
Right.
Mr. Piper?
I called Mr. Piper.
Right. You
Right.
didn't do that when you arrived and you weren't getting in?
Sorry?
You did that when? Shortly after you arrived?
I tried a
Mr.
few
Piper?
times, but nobody was available on the phone.
Right. Okay. Once we don't get the impression that Mr. Piper did anything to keep you out of the compound.
But Paria did that. And the instruction was keep LMCS out.
Well, I don't know. Mr. Ali, that's not in the statement.
No, I'm telling you now.
Don't make up things as we go along, please.
Say I'm making it up.
No.
I'm telling you what
Don't-
happened.
Well, don't add in things as we go along.
Okay.
Otherwise, I'll have to get instructions and call you back to confront you.
Right.
So,
There is something in his statement about being held outside the gate
yes, but not,
by Paria.
no, not that Paria gave instructions not to let LMCS on the compound. That's a different.
Well, I appreciate that's slightly
There
different.
is
but-
on his statement that he was outside the gate and he wasn't admitted until Mr. Piper got involved.
Well,
That's there.
all right. One assumes there must have been some authority given for that to happen.
Well, well, I don't want to give evidence, but it's an insulated.
No. It would be wrong to assume it was Mr. Piper, which you've made clear.
Right.
But somebody, presumably at Paria, must have given that instruction.
I don't know if instructions were given.
No, all right.
I'm telling you, you're going to find it in the statements. When you read all the statements, you'll see it there.
Well, I've seen it. Don't worry. But Mr. Peterson is putting to you that it wasn't Mr. Piper who was, as it were, instructing anyone to keep you out. Do you follow?
I
And that
really
may be so.
admitted to that.
And that may be so. All right. So
I was locked out.
you were locked out. I think we're clear about that.
Your plan to dive on Friday, did it consider the occurrence of a second delta P factor?
No, because the line had stabilized at that stage. There was no external pressure on the plug. And we weren't going to interfere with the plug.
At which stage you discovered that the line had stabilized?
As soon as Andrew saw the bubbles stop coming out of the line.
What time was that?
That would have been before I even got to the barge.
Okay.
About 3:10, somewhere around there.
So you never considered that, not knowing whether the plug was fully holding, that there was not the possibility of an occurrence of a second event?
I was concerned that there were 5 people in that pipeline, and we were the only people that could help them out.
I understand that, Mr. Ali.
The line was stable. There was no imminent danger, no apparent danger. And the best option at the time was to go in and get them.
Right. So you knew the plug was holding because bubbles weren't coming up?
No, I didn't know the plug was holding. At that stage, I didn't even consider where the plug was. All I know, by number 5, by number 6, everything had gone back to the way it was before the plug moved.
Right.
And we established that because we were deflating the plug, that's why the thing moved. In our rescue, there was no talk or even thought of interfering with any plug.
But was there consideration that the plug may have been in such
To
a
be
position?
honest with you, I
Yeah.
said I didn't even consider the plug in the line.
Okay.
As later in my statement, you will see, I only found out or figured out the plug was in the line on Saturday.
All right.
Yep. At that time, the consideration was, there's nothing looking dangerous here, let's go get them in.
Having discovered on Saturday that the plug was in fact in the pipe,
Yeah.
and having not considered the possibility of a second event, you would agree with me that your plan on Friday had built-in inherent risk.
life has inherent risks.
I know that. I agree with you.
The consideration was 5 people needed saving in the pipeline, and we could see no immediate risk, and we're not going to leave them there figuring and thinking up risk.
Right.
Something-
Something I cannot understand. There is a statement from one of Kenson's witnesses on in the bundles, where he came ashore at around 1900 hours, which is 7 o'clock, with 5 empty tanks that were emptied or consumed by the rescue divers, and he came ashore to have them refilled. Are you aware of that?
I'm aware, and I don't think Mr. Dobson said that.
Okay.
Mr. Dobson saw some empty tanks, asked Andrew if he would like those to be refilled, and he took them to be refilled.
Okay.
Right, so I don't know what point you're trying to get at then over time.
I'm not getting at anything except that the statement says
Yeah.
that 5 tanks were brought from the barge back to shore that were used by the rescue divers to be refilled. He waited for about an hour, I think.
And whose
took them
statement is that, sir?
back. One of the Kensons was not.
So it wasn't Kazim Ali's statement?
No.
No, I can't help what Mr. Dobson put
Well,
down.
Mr. Ali, I know it's not your statement, but
but-
you're in the box and we have to give you an opportunity that if you don't
Sure.
know about it,
I don't
you
know
say
about it.
that. Well, thank you.
I think Mr. Dobson's program there, he can be answered this, sir.
Mr. Ali, before we are wrapping up shortly, but let me explain something to you. All we are doing is that if you are there and you know something, we're giving you an opportunity to either comment on it, say you don't know about it, or dispute it. That's all it's about. So that's why I asked you if you are aware. Mr. Ali, you did say that you had experience before of diving into a pipe.
I did.
Yes. I think at paragraph 56 of your amplified statement, and 154. But that was a 50-inch pipe, wasn't it? It wasn't a 30.
50-inch pipe, yeah.
Did it have oil, or was it a clean pipe?
It didn't have oil. Neither did the riser 36.
Right. Neither did the rise at 36.
Yep.
Right.
When we were looking at doing the dive.
Right.
Your film would show that.
Beg your pardon?
Your film, the boroscope, shows that it was clear.
Right.
Andrew found out
So
when
you
he
had-
went in the chamber.
So you all had access to the boroscope?
No. But I'm telling you, you would find out that when Andrew went into the chamber, there was no oil at the top of the riser.
Yeah, yeah. And that 50-inch pipe, it was big, it was large enough for you to turn in it, wasn't it?
No.
Okay. The tribunal will decide. Accept this.
But you know you don't need to turn in the pipe to get out.
You'll explain that to the chairman if you have.
All right.
Yeah, I know, but you're not. All right. Where the email? What did I do? There's the email that I went to already. Yes, yes, yes. Look this. Mr. Ali, I want to take it to the Sunday, the 27th,
Yeah.
where you said that an email was to be sent to you and it wasn't sent. After you had a discussion with respect to a rescue plan, the Sunday?
I said the film was supposed to be sent to me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
via an email.
Yeah.
Right. That plan that you developed, that you sent it to Paria at around 2:19.
Yeah.
In fact, it's covered in paragraph 143 of your witness statement, where you said you emailed a written plan specifically dealing with the removal of the bottles at around 2:19.
Correct.
Right. Could you look, and the email has attached it documents. And the email could be found at page 5875.
Different numbers,
Yeah, I had to make sure. It's submission bundle. All right, that's it.
Is
Yes,
that the
yes,
document
Mr.
you're talking
Chairman.
about? Yes.
Yes. That email, could you scroll along and show us the subject? No, the other way. Down.
Scuba tank.
Scuba tank, oh, you have it. Scuba tank, right. It doesn't speak anything about the men.
No.
The documents that were attached to that email as part of the plan, I think the method statement, which could be found at page 1110 of the core bundle. Could we go to that page 1110 of the core bundle? That method statement at the second line was prepared to deal with entry into the riser pipeline to retrieve 3 scuba tanks.
Right.
Again, the method statement does not mention any rescue of the men. It mentioned tanks.
Let's get to the point.
No, Mr. Ali, I have been very, 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 I understand your predicament, I understand your position. I have something to do, and I've been very respectful.
Will I explain the email?
Answer me, and then you could explain to your
Yes,
counsel.
it said
It
about
said about 3
retrieval.
scuba tanks.
Yep.
At the meeting, and the audio is in the bundle, I could play it. At that meeting in Paria, you did indicate to Mr. Piper and Mr. Mustaq in that meeting, the audio is filed, that you don't think those guys were alive at that stage. You remember saying that?
I said that.
So I don't need to play it because I'm trying to avoid doing that.
This is on the Sunday.
Sunday, yes. At 2
In the meeting in the afternoon.
in
on
the
Sunday,
afternoon.
isn't it? Yes.
I think that was in the
In
morning.
in the morning, there was a meeting for it. The evening meeting was the plan that was submitted, but the meeting was around 10 a.m. on the Sunday. Right. I think that's it now. I'm going to this. And this is my last question, Mr. Ali. I'm sorry to take you back there, but I had missed it, and my colleague here pointed out to me that I have it highlighted, but I missed it. I want to take you back to page 9837,
Well, I think before you do that, you said you were going to give him an opportunity to explain what he meant by the email together with these documents.
No, I told him his lawyer will do that. I just told him, I point out to him the fact that the documents speak only about scuba tank and not persons.
Yes, but he did say he wanted to, and I thought you said you were going to permit him to do so. Well, I'm
Well,
certainly
could go
permitting
ahead.
him to do so.
So
What did you want to say about the email together with
right,
these
so we were shown, we went and we asked to do a dive, and we were told there were bottles blocking the pipeline. Right? Sorry. So we were told that there were bottles blocking the pipeline. Right. So we got a look of just a little piece of the film showing us what looked like 2 bottles in the line. Right. And we said we could get that out, no problem.
You said you could take it out.
Yeah. The reason why we wanted to take it out, as we were saying in the whole meeting there, if we take the bottles out, we can send the camera in. Paria's position was the bottles were blocking there and we couldn't get the camera in. So I said, let's take the bottles out, send the camera in, make sure the men are not alive before we do anything further. So that was just to address that one thing, to get the camera inside and show that the men were.
I understand. Thank you very much.
Did you not also explain, I think, to Mr. Mustaq Mohammed, that in the event of the retrieval of the body, they didn't want the tanks to damage the bodies? I know I didn't want to go there.
Sorry, I missed that.
Do you recall telling Mr. Mohammed one of the reasons you also wanted to remove the tanks is that if they were retrieving the bodies, that they don't want the tanks to do damage to the bodies? Right. You did tell him that?
Yes.
Okay. I'm sorry, I didn't want to go there, but in fairness to you, you have to.
You understand it was to get the camera in, do you?
Yes, also.
Okay.
Also. Yes. Finally, page 9837. Of the core bundle. No, bundle of submissions. That's so many bundles. That's the manufacturer's specifications. The warning at the last page. Mr. Alleyne, it says this. Before attempting to remove any pipe plug, always make sure all back pressures or test pressures have been completely released and that there are no forces working against the pipe plug before deflating. If there is still back/test pressure against the plug, when it deflates, it can shoot out of the pipe like a projectile, or like a projectile. Did you have your men check the back pressure before deflating that plug?
No, because at that time we still. Sorry. Because we had a liquid leg, or because we were supposed to have a liquid leg.
That's it.
There was no better pressure. That was.
If they had followed the manufacturer's specifications and warning and checked for that back pressure, they would have realized the live issue of a latent delta event.
The method of installing the plug.
That must be a yes,
Okay.
Mr. Alleyne. That must be a yes. I know it's an unfortunate situation, but that would have possibly alerted them to the danger that was waiting. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
It would have taken but minutes, presumably, to have opened the valve at riser number 5. Where you've shown us where you were allowing the air pressure to come out. If you'd opened that valve before removing the plug, what would have happened? With hindsight.
In hindsight,
Yes.
we would have known that the pressure was equal.
You'd have known. Yeah. So, to be blunt about it, had that valve been opened at riser number 5, this would not have happened?
I don't agree, sir.
You don't agree?
If it was open, it would have been worse.
If it had been opened at riser number 5, where you check for the pressure,
Yeah.
as you told us before, when they were pumping air in, at the conclusion of each of those episodes, you check for the pressure differential by allowing any air to escape, correct?
They're trying to contradict you, but you did say if it was open, it wouldn't have happened.
No. If you had done that before you removed the plug.
Okay, yes, I agree with you.
That's what I mean. I'm sorry if I didn't make myself clear.
Well, even then, if we had opened it, we would realize the pressure was not equal.
Right. How would you have known?
Because there would be zero pressure there, and you would have had 7 pounds where we were actually in the chamber. So you would have had a differential of 7 pounds. But if it was open while we were moving the plug, it would have been a worse case.
No.
There would have been no.
I'm not talking about that. What I'm asking you, in pursuance to what Mr. Peterson has said.
Sorry, Chief, I'm not.
Yes. In pursuance to what Mr. Peterson said, it's quite important that I understand this, all right? If you or one of your staff had opened the valve at riser number 5, the other end of the pipe, where you told us you were testing for differential earlier when you were blowing air in, if you'd have opened that valve, can we assume it would have let air out and potentially fluid out?
But that's what I'm saying, sir. That would have made the situation worse. Open there would have just tested and told me the pressure was different. But once it was open, what would have happened when it was closed and sealed?
Yeah.
It would have created a back pressure as the plug was moving and slow down the plug. If it was freely open, the plug might have just gone all the way out.
No. I think you're misunderstanding what I'm asking you. Before you moved any plug at all, before you got your staff to do anything to the mechanical plug or the inflatable plug, before they touched it, right? Had you opened the valve at riser number 5, would that have told you that there was a differential?
I agree to that. It would have told me that we had a pressure difference.
Right. And then you'd have been able to act on that, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I would have, yeah.
Right, so is it as blunt as this? Had you done that, this would not have happened.
Correct.
Thank you. Anybody? Yes.
Good afternoon.
Introduce yourself, please, so that everybody knows who you are.
Yes, good afternoon. Mr. Hussein Shah on behalf of the Seamen and Waterfront Workers Trade Union. Good afternoon, Mr. Alley. Right here.
Would it be too inconvenient for you to stand when you're asking questions? Because then everyone can see you, because I can barely see you as you're sitting down at the back row.
I can try, but these documents are quite heavy.
Oh, right. Well, do your best and prop them perhaps on the ones you're not using.
Sure. So you are a mechanical engineer by profession. Sorry, marine engineer by profession.
Correct.
Good. I want to take you to paragraph 28 of your witness statement. That is located at page 484 of the witness statement bundle. So, just to be fair to you, at paragraph 28, you speak to a pressure test that was ultimately abandoned by Paria. You see that?
28, yeah?
Yeah, paragraph 28.
Could you help me out? I'm not hearing you.
Is this better?
Yep.
Sure. So at paragraph 28, you speak to a pressure test that was foregone or abandoned by Paria. Are you seeing that?
Yep.
What is this pressure test you're speaking about at this paragraph? What did it involve?
That was a test on the flange that was welded in the chamber.
Sure. I want to take you now to page 573 of the witness statement bundle. And this deals with the scope of works attached to the tender documents. So if we can go down to 8.4, we see pressure testing.
Yeah.
Can you explain what paragraph A means, 8.4A?
8.4A?
Yeah. So the paragraph that starts with the piping shall be tested in accordance with AP 1 RP 1110. Are you familiar with that?
Yeah.
What is that about?
Well, actually, for testing, pressure testing the pipeline. Right? In this case, we are pressure testing the weld on the flange.
Two separate things.
Sure.
One is testing the weld, this is testing the pipeline itself.
Yeah, that's right.
Pressure in the pipeline. All right.
So why is it that the pressure testing set out at paragraph 8.4 was not conducted? And you can go ahead and answer that. Sorry, I'm asking why the pressure testing at paragraph 8.4 was not conducted. What?
Not conducted. The pipe was egg-shaped, so the rig for testing the weld couldn't be installed.
But you just said that this pressure testing is different from the pressure testing you spoke about with respect to the weld related to paragraph 28 of your witness statement. Are they one and the same?
No, the whole objective there was to test the weld, not the pipeline.
Sure, but
So even though it says here the pipeline, it was understood to be the weld on between the flange and the pipeline.
sure. So you're saying that the pressure testing set out here relates solely to the weld, even though it's
Yeah.
okay. Fair enough. Now I want to take you to paragraph 26 of your witness statement. The amplified one. So that would be at page 482. So at paragraph 26, you say that your son, Yusuf Henry, and Christopher Boudram were PADI certified divers with respect to open water scuba,
Yeah.
and that Rishi Nagasa and Faisal Kurban were commercial divers.
Correct. And Andrew Farah.
Well, yes. But with respect to these divers, with the exception of Andrew Farah, did they undergo any further training beyond their certifications?
Are you, who are you addressing there?
These divers, Yusuf Henry, your son, Christopher Boudram, Rishi Nagasa, and Faisal Kurban.
And the question,
So let me ask it a different way. Did LMCS provide any further training to these divers beyond their ordinary certification?
no, I sent them for the commercial, and I sent them for the party as well. But beyond that,
So what sort of training did these divers have with respect to operating in an environment in the oil and gas industry, dealing with pipelines?
experience in working in the oil field.
Okay, and where did they get this experience?
In the oil field, right there.
With LMCS?
In Point of View.
Sorry, with LMCS?
With LMCS.
Okay, what sort of training did LMCS provide to prepare them for those operations?
Not for that operation especially.
But in general, did LMCS, Whether by, not anything with a certificate or anything, but by experience or...
Yeah, by experience, and that's why we started training up some of the men in the commercial to spread it down to the guys down below.
And who conducted that training?
It would have been Faisal and Andrew would have been. So when they went and got their commercial,
Yes.
then they would spread the training amongst the men.
Sure. And did that training involve rescue operations?
Not specifically, no.
Okay. And did that training involve a situation whereby, or a situation where divers would be trapped inside a pipeline?
No.
Okay. Now I want to go to page 589 of your witness statement.
Can I have some indication of how long you think you're going to be? I did ask this question at the resumption after lunch, and you didn't say anything. So
I think about not more than 20 minutes, Chair.
I'm going to limit it to 20 minutes.
Sure. So we're at page 589, and the listing or the table you see here relates to prior experience going back 5 years of LMCS. Yeah?
Paria and Petrotrin.
Good. Did any of these operations involve diving into a pipeline?
No.
All right. Now I want to go to paragraph 28 of the witness statement of Andrew Farah. And that will be at page...
Well, just a minute. We've heard evidence that Mr. Boudram says he did dive into a pipeline.
Yes.
Are you aware of that?
Andrew?
Yes.
Yeah.
No, Christopher Boudram. So
Yeah.
in his oral testimony, Christopher Boudram said while employed by LMCS, he was involved in a dive where he was required to go into the pipeline because carrying out the works there was safer.
Are you sure it's LMCS, you said?
Well, he didn't say LMCS. Okay. Okay, well, fair enough. So paragraph 28 of Andrew Farah's witness statement. That's at page 447 of the witness statement bundle. So you see there, Mr. Farah is saying that he has dived in a pipeline before.
Correct.
Has LMCS conducted any works whereby divers were required to go into pipelines?
This, not LMCS. This job was for a company called Denko, and we were all working on that job.
Sure.
Andrew, Christopher, myself.
Sure. So you all had experience
Yeah,
when it came to diving into pipelines,
we
yes?
did, yeah.
And in that experience, was there anything in particular that prepared you for emergency scenarios which may arise?
But what we did, we took the precautions that tied off a rope so we could be pulled back out to find our way out. And we went in feet first. Anytime we dive into a situation where you don't have total access, you go in feet first so you can swim out or be dragged out the other way. And that's a precaution, and that would be,
Sure. Anything
anytime we
else?
dive, that's what we would be using.
Is there anything else you want to add?
Sorry?
Is there anything else you want to add to that?
And,
Fair enough. So, you had experience diving into pipelines.
Correct.
You had experience dealing with potential dangers which may have arisen when it comes to diving into pipelines, yes?
correct, yeah.
Whether through LMCS or through your own rights or through your diver's own rights.
Yeah.
Yeah? So now I want to go back.
I did say
Yes.
I myself dived into the pipeline as well. So I had experience.
Sure. And you're a diver of how many years experience?
1981, I think, 82 something like that.
And you have been commercially diving for how long?
Not commercially, diving in the industry. I also am advanced PADI.
Sure.
And
So I want to take you now to page 791 of the witness statement bundle. This is the site safety plan. And I want to go to page 809 of that plan. So this is a plan, sir, you would have submitted to Paria.
Correct.
Yes?
Correct, yeah.
And Paria would have approved this plan in the consideration of your bid.
But everything we
approval of
did
your
in Paria, Paria had to approve.
Excellent.
Just a minute, I need to find my place. Just a minute.
Sorry. 809.
Thank you.
Yeah. So we're looking at paragraph 8.14. So just to recap, this is the site safety plan. And under the heading of diving operations, the second to last bullet point, standby divers to be present and suited up to render assistance throughout the dive.
Yeah.
Now on the 25th of February 2022, standby divers were available.
Correct.
And those standby divers, one of which being Andrew Farah, they were commercial divers.
Correct.
And he was trained in pipeline operations.
Correct.
He was able to enter into pipelines.
Correct.
And beyond Andrew Farah, further on during the day, additional divers arrived.
That's correct, yeah.
And those divers came equipped with equipment to allow them to enter into the pipelines and get to, I think, at least 300 feet into the pipeline.
Correct. Well, to be honest, they came at different stages. The first set that came
Yeah,
came with more scuba gear, and then
yeah,
just after 6, we had people with
Yeah.
surface supplied. So as the day went on, we got more and more equipment and more
yeah.
men.
But Paria would have been aware, through your plan, that in the event an emergency occurred, the primary responsibility or the primary body or persons who would effect a rescue operation would be LMCS.
Correct.
And that is in fact what you did.
Correct.
And when you spoke to Colin Piper ought to have known, through your safety plan, that you would be pursuing a rescue operation. And
Correct.
you in fact told him you're going to get your boys. Yes?
Correct, yeah.
Now I want to take you to page 818. This is the emergency, what's the name of it? Sorry. The emergency response plan. So the emergency response plan starts at 816 and we're going to 818. So we see, right, stop, go back up. In the event of an emergency, of any emergency in the hyperbaric chamber, and we're going to the last bullet point. You with me?
Yeah.
Sorry, trying to be economical on time. Emergency assistance available from additional divers on site. You see that?
Which one, sir? Yeah.
So we'll look at the screen. You see, in the event of any emergency in the hyperbaric chamber, and
Yeah.
you see a series of bullet points.
Okay, good, yeah.
So I'm looking at the last bullet point. Emergency assistance available from additional divers on site.
Correct.
Again, this is a document which was in Paria's possession.
Correct.
And LMCS had the facilities at the time
We did.
with the additional divers to conduct emergency assistance or to provide emergency assistance.
We did, yeah.
But ultimately, Paria prevented you from doing that.
They did.
And the Coast Guard prevented you from doing that.
They did as well.
Now, did you have any reason to doubt the structural integrity of the pipeline?
Of the pipeline?
Yeah.
No, I didn't.
In fact, LMCS was contracted to fix or to remove and replace the defective portion of the pipeline.
Correct, yeah.
So if there was problem, if there were other areas of the pipeline defective, logic dictates that a tender would have gone out to repair those portions as well.
It would have, yeah.
Thank you. Anything else?
Speculation and logic, the same thing.
If you have an objection,
Yes.
then make it.
I don't know how, which interest my friend is seeking, but suggesting that there are other defects in the line, or if there would, that there would be, it's highly speculative, and it's casting inferentially some liability or some responsibility on Paria with respect to some aspect in the pipeline that does not arise. There's no issue of other issues in the pipeline that didn't go to tender. So I don't know where my friend is going with this.
Mr. Hussain?
But the point of the question was essentially to get from Mr. Ali that they were there to repair defective portion of the pipeline. Insofar as relates to everything else, I can accept the objection from there.
Okay, rephrase the question then.
Sure. So, Mr. Ali, LMCS was contracted to repair, remove, and replace a defective portion of the pipeline.
Correct.
And you had no reason to doubt the structural integrity of the remainder of the pipeline.
None whatsoever.
Thank you. Chair, I believe Ms. Alfonso has just a few questions, and she will be confined within the same time frame.
Much less.
Thank you.
So who's going to do what? I thought we'd resolved this tag team event. In fact, I think we've got correspondence about it somewhere, or
Yes,
someone
yes, indeed. So we did try to document what the position would be, which was that Mr. Hussain Shah and I would address different aspects of the material. I don't want to say evidence, of the material. And we promised to be economical, and I promised to have far less questions than Mr.
You have 5
Hussain
minutes,
Shah.
and I really do want you to resolve this. It's not going to happen again, all right? You have to, I'm afraid, work it out between you. One council can do the prep work, the other one can do the questions. You know, I've been a King's Counsel for a long time, and I've had my juniors prepare it for me. We know how it works, but, you know, I'm not going to have a tag team working on preparing and then using their skills, whatever it might be, to cross-examine each witness. So this is the last time I'll permit it, please. You decide between you which one of you are going to ask questions of each witness, rather than both of you. All right? This is the last time I'll permit it. You have 5 minutes.
I take certainly, Mr. Chairman, we would work it out from today. Even if it's somebody.
You're
else
using up your 5 minutes. I suggest you ask the questions.
Okay, well, I'll try not to jump too far. Mr. Ali, are you hearing me? Thank you very much. My name is Nairi Alfonso, Mr. Ali. You said you admit that you are, or you've said that you are a marine engineer by training, yes?
Correct, yeah.
Okay. You would have read the INCO, let me make sure I pronounce it correctly, the INCO Tech Limited report?
I would have, yeah.
Yes, okay, so I won't take you through that. But you would have read that the root cause identified for the Delta P. You would have read that part of the report, yes?
Yeah.
Okay. So, well, let me put it to you. When we were here on another occasion, Mr. Michael, we would have given certain evidence, seated where you are, to the effect that one of the reasons that Paria, let me not say him, Paria did not want LMCS's divers, or any other divers for that matter, to go down into the pipe, was his fear, or Paria's fear, beg your pardon, Paria's fear, that there could be a repeat Delta P incident. Do you have any position on that? Have anything to say with respect to that position? Advanced by Mr. Wee or Way?
A repeat Delta P.
Is that, in your training and experience, is that possible?
It is possible if there's external forces on the system. But at this stage, the pipeline conditions had stabilized, and unless somebody went and interfered with the plug, or we all know the line was isolated, so you couldn't switch on a pump or anything elsewhere to create the situation again. So once the first incident happened and the pressures equalized, and well, like I said, we didn't consider where the plug was in the first day. Right, so that wasn't there, but the system was, there was no flow in or out of the pipeline. So we assumed that. The next day, again, that came up, and I dealt with that, and I said, we will fill the riser at number 5 with an equal amount of liquid as we had at number 6, thereby stabilizing the line. At that stage, I knew there was a plug in the line, and the plug was intact.
So you think it unlikely that another delta P could have occurred because the pressures had already equalized?
It wouldn't have had, it wouldn't have done.
Okay. Mr. Ali, you would have...
Before you move on, just one moment.
Sorry.
If there was the prospect of a second delta P before Mr. Boodram came out of the pipe, was that alleviated at all by the fact that Mr. Boodram came out of the pipe?
It would have, because he would have had to pass through some kind of pressurized bubble or something like that.
And given the information that he gave you, that they were all together,
Yeah.
or at least 4 of them were, did you have any doubts at that time as to a second delta P after he'd come out of the pipe?
No.
Thank you. Sorry, carry on. I'll add a minute.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Before the lunch break, Mr. Ali, we were showed a particular map by Paria's attorneys. You recall that?
Yeah, the showing the depth of water.
Okay. Is that a bathymetric survey?
It was, yeah.
Thank you. And that bathymetric survey would show you the depth of the water
Correct.
in the area which we saw on the screen, yes?
It wouldn't show you what's under the seabed, though.
Thank you very much. It wouldn't show you the pipeline necessary or the configuration of the pipeline.
Not unless it's on top of the mud.
Okay, so it's showing you depths of water and
correct.
perhaps topography, if that's the right word, when it's under the water.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. You would have read, Mr. Ali, the Association of Diving Contractors International Inc. report. That is Mr. Newsom who signed that.
Yeah.
And you would have noted that he made some comments about having PADI certified only divers participate in this, well, let me call it exercise or this job.
Yeah.
And you would have seen he made a comment with regard to divers being tethered and divers being supplied with surface air.
Yeah.
Do you have any position with that, Mr. Ali? Do you think that the better way to do this is if your divers were commercially, all of them were commercially certified and they were wearing commercial gear rather than what, well, scuba equipment?
Okay. That's about 3 questions in one.
Sorry, I'm sorry.
So,
I'm doing you a disservice because I'm
Yes.
trying to hurry. So I'm
It's
terribly sorry.
It's a fair point he's making. You have to select
Yeah.
which ones you want to use.
Okay.
So the first question is whether or not you've seen Mr. Newsom's report, and you've already told us you had.
Correct.
So he makes an observation about the people working in the chamber being tethered in some way to the chamber.
Yeah, correct.
Did you see that?
I can see advantage and disadvantage.
I'm sure there are disadvantages to being tethered. Nobody wants to be tethered. We're not dogs. On the other hand, it might make some sense, mightn't it, if they had been tethered?
Might have. Whether it would have helped in this situation, as Christopher said, it could have strangled you being tethered and been causing the vertex.
Could have been worse.
Yeah.
Difficult to see it being worse, given that 4 people died.
Sorry?
I said it's difficult to see it being much worse, given that 4 people died. Obviously, Mr. Boodram didn't, but...
Well, to be But the 4 people didn't die from the incident. They died from the lack of action after.
Well, we had to have the incident first. I take your point, but we had to. The question is whether or not you think, with the benefit of hindsight now, it might have been better if they had been tethered.
I'll say, weighing it, they probably would have a better chance of drawing them out. I still say there's advantage and disadvantage, but it might have been better.
So I asked the question I asked you earlier. Now that you know what happened and you have much more information than you did before, do you think today you would make those people be tethered rather than untethered?
Today I'd make sure we don't have a Delta P, sir.
Yeah, well, that's true, but even with the possibility of a Delta P, would they not be better being tethered? That's the question.
Possibly, yeah.
Yeah. Do you think that now you would do that?
Yes, I
Thank you.
would do that.
That was the second question. Third question, I think, was whether or not you thought that you would be assisted by surface air if they were commercial divers, having some separate tube that leads to their mouth so that they're breathing that air rather than the air that was in the hyperbaric chamber. I think that was the essence of it.
Yes, indeed, Mr. Chairman.
I personally don't see how it could help, but anyway, you answer the question, not me.
I don't think there's a problem with the air in the hyperbaric chamber. I think you meant that if they had the tether, the surface air, they would still get air down in the pipeline.
Yes, would they have been able to take the surface air with them into the pipeline?
Yeah, well, that's the surface supply there.
No. Given that we had a Delta P and they were sucked into the pipeline, if they were using a surface to chamber pipe in order to breathe, would they have been assisted by having been sucked into the pipeline?
Again, it would have been beneficial if they survived the trip down with the surface air system, because then they would have kept on breathing there for a much longer
It would
time.
rather depend on the length of the pipe, wouldn't it? That they
It
were
would.
breathing through, not the length of the pipe they were in.
But it would. But even in the swirling around, they could have become tangled up with it.
All right, thank you very much. There are your answers.
Okay.
It would help them if they survived the trip and they had it.
Yeah.
And then we could use that to draw them back out.
All right.
So, like I said, there's advantage and disadvantage.
You have your answers.
I just want for my clarification, Mr. Ali, is there a difference between the surface air, which would be with a tube, and
Yeah.
a helmet, yes? Or would it be somehow, okay, so there's a tethering with like a rope so that if you went down into the pipeline, there would be a way to pull you out, yes?
Correct, yeah.
And you could have also a tube giving you oxygen, air, as well.
That's what we talk about surface supply.
Okay, but
right,
is
so
it two different things or one thing? I don't want to confuse you or myself. Is it two different things that you could be tethered, like say with a rope,
Yeah,
and then you could also have
Well,
a
you could
tube,
have-
for argument's sake, with air from the surface?
Right, you could have the scuba set and you tether with a rope.
Okay, so
With the surface supply, the tubing acts as the rope with a tether.
So following from what the Honorable Chairman said, if you had an opportunity once again, in hindsight, would the safer thing to be tethered with a rope? Let me say it like tethered with a rope so that you could be retrieved?
He's already said that. He's already said that.
Right.
He's already drawn
It'd
the
be safer
distinction
to be
between the
tethered
two.
with a rope and even safer to have
I think
the
we move
surface-
on now, please.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Mr. Ali, by Sunday afternoon, the meeting, I'm just going to ask you one more question. By the Sunday afternoon, when this plan to remove the 3 tanks that you mentioned was being put forward, by that time, was there another plan that Paria had explained to you by which the line would have been, I want to say, pumped, flushed, maybe flushed, in order to recover the bodies
To
of
recover.
the...
They weren't talking rescue, they were talking about recover.
Okay. So is it that you wanted the tanks to be removed because the plan that was put forward at that time by Paria was to flush the lines.
No, we were still talking rescue.
You or Paria?
LMCS.
Okay, I'm sorry. LMCS was talking rescue.
Rescue.
But was Paria on the Sunday afternoon when you had this meeting that you referred us to? Wasn't Paria talking about recovery and flushing the line in order to recover the bodies?
Yes.
Right?
They had gone to recovery, even though they pretended they were engaging us in rescue.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Ali.
Mr. Ali, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Thank you for coming. First of all, I want to say condolences for the loss of your son and your entire dive team. You know, you can imagine the effects it have on your workplace. Whilst we have this up here, I think we already established that Delta P was not identified in the risk assessment or hazard identification. Yes.
Correct.
And I offer you that an emergency response plan, it really comes out powerfully out of a quality risk assessment, yes?
Sorry, I didn't catch your last.
An emergency response plan, that's why I'm addressing this here. Emergency response plan is something that would come out powerfully if a risk assessment, a quality risk assessment was done. It speaks to the emergency response plan.
Correct.
Right. So I want to address here and just clarify when the gentleman indicated that this was a pipeline. The emergency response plan here identified was for vessel, the hyperbaric chamber, and event of emergency whilst underwater. It was never intended for rescue within a pipeline.
No.
No, because the risk assessment didn't drive
I
it.
didn't call that.
Thank you.
Yes. Well, you didn't say anything either.
Unfortunately, in the washroom when you asked the question, but I shan't be very long, and I apologize.
Right.
So,
Very
shall
well.
we start the countdown now then? Thank you so much. Good afternoon, sir. Of course, just like your...
Introduce yourself,
yes,
please.
Prakash Ramada, representing the interests of the family, Kurban, and of course, the daughter of Yusuf Henry. Like the Commissioner, I too, we all sympathize with your loss. You lost your only son. Is that accurate? Yes. Now, what I'm most interested in is to find out, of course, the accident occurred. That is behind us. This is tombstone hearing. I know you're not hearing me as well. Yeah. We are interested in finding out exactly how the accident occurred to prevent possible recurrence. Okay, that's one aspect.
Yeah.
We call it a tombstone hearing. The other aspect is, in terms of the rescue, which my clients, their families are most interested in. Around 3 o'clock, everyone knew that a disaster had occurred.
Correct.
Yes. You had plans in place. You had plans in place.
Correct, yeah.
You had manpower in place.
We did.
Yes. When was the first time that you saw or observed any Paria personnel on the scene?
On the sea.
On the scene. At
On
the
the
site.
scene.
Define scene.
Yes.
Yeah, on
Where
the
the accident or incident occurred.
So berth 6.
Bird 6. Thank you so much,
Right.
Chairman.
When I got out on the site, there were about 4 Kingston Paria people.
No, hold on. We have to make a distinction between Kenson and Paria. And there's a reason for that. I shall come to it. Paria. Who did you know from Paria that would have been present when you first saw them?
No one. No one.
No one. When was it the first time that you saw anyone from Paria itself on site?
I didn't.
You never saw any Paria personnel?
Well, to be fair,
At the time, up till the time you left the site?
yeah, up to the
Correct.
time I left.
And what time would that have been?
That would have been between 3:30, 3:45.
Right. What time did you return to the site?
I didn't.
You did not?
No,
You
I-
were at a meeting, and forgive me, Chairman. Yes. You went to a meeting with Paria personnel
Right.
on shore.
On Saturday and Sunday.
No, we're talking Friday evening.
No. Phone contact on Friday.
Phone contact.
Because Mr. Piper was in St. Augustine at the time, and there didn't appear to be anybody at what they call the ICT.
I see. So as far as you are concerned, the person who was point person in terms of in complete control, apart from LMCS, but in relation to Paria or Kenson, the most senior person would have been Mr. Piper. Is that accurate?
Correct, yeah.
Yes. When did you first see Mr. Piper at or around Paria's premises?
On Saturday,
Saturday morning. Now, you told
About
us something
10
very
o'clock.
interesting. You said that you believe that you were locked out. Is that accurate?
I was locked out.
How long were you waiting at the gate as the father of a victim and as the man in charge of LMCS? How long did you have to wait?
I said about 3 hours. Shortly after 6, I arrived there.
Around 3 hours.
Correct.
And the person, as far as you are aware, who authorized your presence or your admission was Mr. Piper.
Well, that's the one I called and got
good.
admittance. Yeah.
At that point in time, who was looking after LMCS's business at Bird 6? At the time you were locked out?
I had Dexter Guerra and Andrew Farah.
Do you know why it is that no one entered the water shortly after 3 o'clock with a view to going into the pipe? Do you know why it was that no one entered the pipe with a view to rescuing shortly after 3 o'clock?
As far as LMCS is concerned, we were stopped.
By whom?
By the technician working. They pulled the permit and said,
hold. I want to hear this. They pulled the permit?
Yeah.
What does that mean, so that all of us could understand what that means?
Well, normally, the same permit to work that you have.
Right.
Right?
So it was cancelled. In other words, you couldn't do. I just want to hustle up here.
Yeah. They
Who
took
pulled
away the
that
permit
permit?
and said we had no permit to work. And that
Who
would have been
said this?
Houston Mahadar Singh. Yeah.
Working for whom?
And he would have been a Kenson worker working for Paria.
Oh my goodness. Now, you have been in the business for many, many years, correct?
Correct. Yeah.
The progenitor of Paria was Petrotrin. Is that accurate?
Correct. Yeah.
In fact, my understanding is that we had world-class personnel working there with the greatest expertise. Is that accurate?
Correct. Yeah.
Yes. When this incident occurred, some of the most senior men, of course, were no longer working with Paria. Is that accurate?
Correct. Apart
Yes.
from Piper, who would have been there.
Apart from Piper.
Correct.
So persons who would have been experienced in the art or in the practice of recovery and so, or rescue, would no longer with Paria. Is that accurate?
Well, so it is now, yeah.
Yes. Now, hindsight is 20/20 vision, and we all learn from it, and we are grateful for the opportunity to be able to learn from it. Now, you having lost your son, well, when I say lost, he was a victim of the accident at the time.
Correct.
When did you personally give up hope that he was alive?
I'd say Sunday sometime.
Sunday.
Yeah.
Did you wish to have any rescue effort from Friday afternoon? Yes or no?
From Friday afternoon till long after, I felt some of them were there. Because until I was sure there was no one alive, there was a rescue in my mind.
Thank you. Now, you appreciate anything to do with water, underwater, or even above it. There are inherent risks, as we've all been hearing.
Correct, yeah.
But there comes a moment when you have to weigh in balance the likelihood of life being saved to the likelihood of life being imperiled. You agree with that?
Correct, yeah.
At 6 o'clock or thereabouts, we understand that Christopher Boudram miraculously was retrieved from the pipeline.
Correct.
5 o'clock.
5, thank you so much. Yeah. Certainly makes it even better. So by 5 o'clock, still daylight, do you know, well, you said you were not present, but you had personnel from the LMCS there, ready, equipped, and prepared to go in. You agree with that?
Yeah.
Michael Kurban, You know he's a certified commercial diver?
I paid for that.
Sorry?
I paid for his certificate.
Of course. Do you know he was also trained in what we call close quarter diving?
Correct.
Specifically for diving into pipelines?
Well, that's
Yeah,
what
close
I
quarter.
did. Yeah.
Yeah. You knew, because you had been speaking with the families, and I want to thank you for that at least, and try to give support there and then to get men, equipment, and opportunity available to save not just your son, but your other co-workers' lives. Is that accurate?
Correct. Yeah.
In fact, tell us, because this is important, they were like brothers, all of them,
Correct.
including your son, Mr. Kurban. I shan't go through all the names. I know it's very difficult. So I do not need to do this, but I need to make it very clear, because we need to know at some stage or the other who is liable, first of all, for the accident. Okay?
Well, that's not what we're here for. And I am going to constrain you from asking questions which there's a limit to how far I'm prepared to go. And you've gone far enough. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right, so can you move on, please?
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Now, Mr. Farah and Mr. Guerra, as you've indicated, were available since around shortly after 3 o'clock.
Correct.
Yeah. Now, the pipeline, as the chairman had so graciously allowed, the horizontal part was under the seabed cover. Is
Correct.
that accurate?
Yep.
You could not and did not know at the time.
I wasn't visible now.
Right. You could not and did not know at the time that it was not completely horizontal.
Correct.
Yes. Now, we're hearing a lot about pressure differentials, yeah? And the issue of the plug being removed, whether by failure or by
Design.
design. On one end, there's a plug on one side at berth 6. Is that accurate?
Correct. Yeah.
And you have described now pumping air into this pipeline to push its content, meaning water, oil, or whatever, out of it. Is that also accurate? But you also said something very interesting, that at 5, there was a valve somewhere.
Correct.
Yeah. That valve, anybody check to see whether there was a failure of that valve to create any differential in the pressure? But it was not under your remit. That's Paria's valve. Is that accurate?
Just a moment. I'm not sure I can understand what you're actually asking.
Sorry.
If the valve isn't working, just think of your car tyre. If the valve fails in some way, lets the air out, it's going to do the exact reverse of what you're suggesting, as far as I can see.
No, with all due respect, I don't know enough, and that's why I'm asking.
Well, I think we all, the rest of us, might know by now that if you open the valve, it's going to let air out rather than in. Unless there was a vacuum on the inside.
Thank you so much. So, and that is why, Mr. Ali, you said something earlier, that it would have been worse if there was an opening at 5. Is that what you said? Tell us what you mean by that.
This is not for checking the pressure now, Chief.
If that, this is what?
Riser was open and the plug moved, there would be no back pressure building up to stop the plug.
There you go.
Yeah.
So that's what you asked, sir?
Yes. Yeah. So there was a greater likelihood of the plug moving away from where it was originally placed. Is that accurate?
Correct, yeah.
And that's it. Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Yes, Ms. Mirage.
Ms. Sally, Kamini Prasad Mirage for LMCS. I'd like to follow up from this morning's questioning, where you indicated that there were some diagrams that you would have referred to
Correct.
You recall that when
Yeah.
you said you'd have seen it? Okay. So I understand that I have emailed those documents to the Commission. It was previously disclosed to the Commission, but I don't think it has found its way in the bundles. So those has since been supplied. Have a look at the documents being supplied.
Is this in our original supplied material online?
It's part of a list of documents that was supplied by LMCFs to the Commission, but it's not part of the bundle. It's not within the bundle of the documents.
So it was on a list, but not actually supplied?
Not actually supplied.
Right.
Yes?
And have you got copies for everybody else? Or can we put it up on the screen at least?
It's on the screen, please.
Right.
Right.
Can we make
So
it a little,
this was an
Can we make it a little bigger, please? That's better, yes. Thank you. Is this what you were referring to? Right, thank you.
Right. And you were explaining the assumption that was made in relation to the pipeline, referring to this diagram. Can you explain what we're looking at? And
Okay. At the foot of the riser, there's concrete bags placed to stop the riser sinking further than the rest of the pipeline. Because the pipeline is concrete coated,
Could you just show us where that's depicted on this point?
so here we have some concrete bags at the foot of the riser. When you have a concrete coated line, and the riser is coated as well, there's concentrated weight on the riser. So it sinks further than the rest of the pipeline. So that's where you will have gotten your undulations. What's a bit perplexing in this case, it's not just at the riser, because Christopher refers to 2 air pockets. So if it was just this one, then you would have 1 air pocket. So there must have been some more undulation in the pipeline. But this is what was meant to portray that the line was level and not undulation or sinking down into this corner. And that, that's one of the explanations for the air pockets that came up, that we found out was there.
So when you were, where did you get this document from?
This was given by one of our meetings after the
Paria gave it.
Paria, yeah. It's a Paria document.
Right. But you assumed from that that the pipe
Was
at
level.
sub-sea level
Yeah, because
was level.
yeah, with no. The major thing was that the riser hadn't sunk down lower than the rest of the pipe.
Right. So that there'd been no movement, or you didn't believe there to be any movement
Yeah.
at the riser at number 6.
And
And
similar for number 5.
is that the
because-
same for the riser? I think the next diagram is the one at
Yeah.
number 5.
so yes, so there are 2 diagrams, one for berth 5 and one for berth 6. And just by way of explanation, Mr. Alley, you'll confirm that that's the same reasoning and rationale,
yeah.
which is
at
applicable
both.
to both. All right. Can we please have page 4252 of the bundles of submission? That is the permit to work.
Yeah. Just before you move on,
Yes.
does it give the distance of the pipe from the mean sea level to the floor? I mean, it probably does, but it's in such tiny writing, I can't possibly read it. I challenge most people to be able to read it, actually. I just want to know if it does. And if it does it give exactly the same distance for both 5 and 6?
I'm going to attempt to read it myself, please, Mr. Commissioner.
I'm figuring it's going to give you the depth. I just want to know if it's the same. Well, should we check that later on? We've got the diagrams now. We can check it later. You can move on to your next question.
I'm grateful. There is on the right of the document a number of measurements that I can see.
We've got the document.
Perhaps,
We can
yes,
work it out.
So we
All
can
right.
perhaps look at it. All right. So can I have page 2871? Witness statement, supplemental witness statement. Supplemental witness statement. Yeah. Paragraph 92. Right. So I'm taking you to paragraph 92 of your statement where you've said that your men were about to implement a plan, a simple plan for the rescue.
Correct.
Right? But something happened. Right? Let me take you to now page 9302 of the bundles of submissions. Bundles of submissions. No. Oh, sorry. It's page 4252. It's the permit to work, 9302. But unlike the core bundle, this has a second page that was omitted from the core bundle.
Permit to work, you say?
Yes, it's a permit to work, right.
Right.
So
1074 in core bundle.
So the core bundle, Mr. Commissioner, has a page that has been omitted. So this is the first page of that permit to work. And Mr. Ali, this is the permit to work that would have been issued to LMCS for the purposes of the 25th of February 2022.
Correct, yeah, 9320.
Right. I'd like to take you to the second page. So this is the first page. Yes? And now, scroll. Keep scrolling. Right, stop right there. Right. So we have an annotation here. You see that? Are you seeing that? Are you
Yeah,
seeing?
sorry, yeah.
Right. Yeah. Would you be able to tell the Commission what that annotation means?
That's where the permit was pulled and all work stopped. The men were instructed not to do anything on the badge. As you can see,
can you see a time?
Is
right.
1522 on the 25th, second.
So all work stopped at 1522.
Yeah, that's where they took. They pulled the permit then and actually signed it off.
And by pulling the permit, they also came with instructions to the members of LMCS present at the barge?
That's correct. When they pulled it, even though it said 1522, it was just after I left that they told the men they wanted to do anything else. And they had the permit for nothing.
And anything else would have included carrying out
The diving, the rescue.
The rescue plan.
So that I understand, your position is this, is that indicates the time at which LMCS were effectively prevented from doing anything further under the original work